Hello and welcome to our How to Play series for the Elder Scrolls, Betrayal of the Second Era. In this video we'll be discussing town encounters, a very important part of your journey. We're going to be joining back up with Garbin and Darbin as they set out on a contract with the Mages Guild. If you'd like to follow along with setup, character creation, or just need to learn how to fight and break out of jail, make sure to check out the previous videos in this series. In your Gazetteer, you'll find all of the towns that exist in your province, listed in alphabetical order. You're always free to look through the Gazetteer before party movement to determine if a given town has what you're looking for available. The most common ways that your party will find itself in a town are if you end your movement on a town icon of the overland map, or if you are on day 1 of your first or second play session. As a reminder, your party must always choose to visit their starting town on day 1 of play sessions 1 and 2. In the previous video of this series, we chose Western Blackmarsh as our province, and the quest we've chosen placed us in the town of Lilmoth. That means that our party will be starting the first day of their campaign in Lilmoth. There's certainly a lot to digest on a town page, but none of it should leave you scratching your head. Let's go through each part step by step, and before you know it, you'll be an expert at visiting towns. First off are town actions. Each member of your party are given 2 town actions to use how they see fit. Consider these to be the resources provided by your contracted guild to purchase goods and services. At the top of the town page, we'll find the name of the settlement we're in. Below that, you'll find a small block of flavor text to set the mood for your visit. Next, we're on to the special feature of the town. In Lilmoth, that feature is called Olis Bay Tradeways, and it allows an adventurer to take 2 items with a single town action instead of the usual one. Next, we're on to the marketplace. In this town, we'll be shopping at the Marshland Market, and based on this diagram, we know they have 6 common items in stock. In some towns, an icon will be grayed out, like this legendary item icon. That means that this specific feature is unavailable in this town, unless another rule states otherwise. To build out your shop, you'll simply draw a number of cards from the matching decks. In this case, we draw 6 cards from the common item deck and display them in the center of the play area. There's a variety of different item types in the Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era, and I'll be going over them now. One of the most essential item types in the game are weapons. Most weapons will have a name, a type, a required battle form, an ability, and an overtax effect. To use a weapon, you must be in the battle form dictated by the item. If you're in the required battle form, in this example, heavy weapon, you'll gain the additional effect of the weapon. You can only use 1 weapon per turn per engage. Each weapon in the game will also have an overtax effect. Whenever you attack with a weapon, you may activate its overtax effect, which will grant you the overtax effect in addition to the weapon's regular effect. The downside of using a weapon's overtax effect is that you've pushed this weapon to its limit, and therefore you'll have to discard it after this engage. Much like weapons, there are armor pieces with an effect and an overtax effect. Armor items have this icon. Unlike weapons, armor will activate when the player wearing it is engaged by an enemy. When a player with armor is engaged by an enemy, they can choose to gain the printed effect of any armor in a ready slot. They will also be given the chance to overtax the armor at this time. Just like weapons, any overtaxed armor will be discarded after this engage. Each armor item has a trait that tells you which area of the body it is worn on. An adventurer can have only 1 armor item with each trait in their ready slots. The next item type that we'll be going over are glyphs. Glyphs are enchantments that can be used to enchant a variety of targets. When you enchant something with a glyph, you'll set the glyph near the target to help remember what is being affected by it. Your target now has the printed effect granted by the glyph. Make sure to keep in mind the conditions for the glyph going away, because they can vary greatly. Once you've enchanted something, the glyph has left your inventory. It can no longer be discarded, and it no longer takes up an inventory slot. After all this talking, I'm feeling a bit peckish. Thank goodness we're moving on to food, or should I say, consumables. Consumables come in a variety of flavors, and thus grant a variety of effects when you chow down. The one thing all consumables have in common is that you'll discard the item to use its effect. The next item type we'll be covering are potions. Potions operate very similar to consumables in that you'll use the item once in battle to gain a variety of effects. The difference with potions is that once you've used one, instead of discarding the item, you'll expend it, or in other words, turn the card sideways. This potion can't be used again until you've refilled it somehow. Sometimes you'll find a new pair of pants or even a fancy nose warmer in your travels. These are clothing items, and you can basically look at them as additional class abilities. When you have a clothing item in a ready slot, you may use its ability just like any other class ability by spending the printed number of tenacity. Items with this icon are miscellaneous items. These items have a broad range of abilities that don't share mechanics with any other items. And finally, the most important item type, pets. Pets are named creatures that can join your party and help in a variety of situations. As they are a beloved member of the team, you can never move them to your pack once they've entered a ready slot. Each pet has a unique ability, but the way they are activated is the same. To activate a pet, you'll place an HP chip on it and gain its effect. If the pet has reached their HP chip limit, it has grown fed up with you and is discarded. To purchase an item, a player must simply spend one town action and add the item they would like to their inventory. Or in the case of Lil Moth, they may add the 2 items that they want to their inventory. Now we're on to trainers. The town of Lil Moth has 5 trainers, and they can be from any of the 3 major constellations featured in this game. Draw a number of skill line tokens from the draw bag equal to the number of available trainers. In this town, you draw 5 tokens. Place the drawn skill lines near the available items, as they should be accessible to all players. Place the corresponding skill sheets nearby so that players can easily consult them. Some trainers aren't available in certain towns. If one of the constellation symbols is faded out, you'll set aside any skill tokens of that constellation when drawing and pull another to replace it. You'll then return any drawn tokens matching the faded constellation to the bag. If a player decides to spend a town action on learning a skill, they immediately place the chosen skill token into their character mat and gain the associated skill sheet. They do not gain any dice from that skill line at this time, but may now purchase them with XP in the future. Next up, you'll find the town's inn, that is, if it has one. If an adventurer visits the inn, they will heal to full health and completely clear their cooldown track. If it's the first day of your quest, you should not require the services of the inn. It's very important to note that not all towns have an inn. Make sure to check the Gazetteer before traveling to a town if you're in desperate need of a rest. Next to the inn, you'll find a spot for the quest board. If the town has an icon here, an adventurer may spend a town action to visit it and take on a side quest. To do so, they'll draw 2 cards from the side quest deck and choose which one they'd like to complete. Let's take a quick look at a side quest card. Up top is the title of the side quest. Below that, you'll find the story text. This describes the characters and situation involved in the quest. Below that, you'll find the instructions text. This outlines what you'll actually be doing to complete this side quest. If this side quest involves a clash, you'll find the clash setup diagram here. If there are any additional rules to the clash, you'll find those right below the clash setup diagram. And at the very bottom of the card, you'll find the card number. This number is not important in completing this side quest. Some towns will have a guild kiosk. Adventurers who visit the guild kiosk can take the action granted to them by the guild that they're currently contracted with. This specialized action can be found on the back of your selected guild card. Since we selected the Mage's Guild during the previous video, our adventurers will have the ability to discard a potion or glyph to train any Magicka-type skill line from the trainer bag if they visit the guild kiosk. Most towns will have a unique town square action. For instance, Cyrodiil collections are located in the town of Lil Moth, and adventurers who spend a town action can give them 1 legendary item to gain 1 bonus XP. Town square actions can only be used once per adventurer per town encounter. Remember how I mentioned being able to recover expended items earlier? Well, the alchemy station is the place to do it. Adventurers that spend a town action to visit the alchemy station can refresh one of their expended potions, turning it upright and ready to use in a future encounter. In rare instances, some towns or quests will require a group town action, such as the Hire a Sharp Eyes mercenary action in Stone Wastes. To take a group town action, each player must give up 1 of their 2 allotted town actions. Now let's run through a quick example town encounter so that you can get a feel for what these will look like. Garbin and Darbin each have 2 town actions. Garbin wants to make sure that they can move around the board freely despite not having that much stamina. They decide to spend a town action to visit a trainer and take on the acrobatic skill line. They take the acrobatic skill sheet and token. They then add the token immediately to their mat. They choose to place it across from their stamina. They don't add any acrobatics dice to their mat at this time, but will now have access to these skills when spending XP in the future. For their second town action, Garbin visits the shop. They think it might be good for a sorcerer to have a glyph handy, so they choose to take the glyph of bashing. Lil Moth has the special feature, Olis Bay Tradeways, so Garbin is able to take an additional item for no additional town action. They decide to take the High King's Nose Warmer, as it will let them share a bit of tenacity with Darbin, while also being a fashionable, functional accessory with a rich history. Darbin has used up his 2 town actions. Darbin also chooses to visit the shop. They would like to make the most of their race ability, which cares about having a variety of different weapons, so they spend a town action to take the Dwarven Battle Axe. Again, the special feature allows them to take an additional item for no additional cost. Darbin takes the barnacle-back coral crab, or Barney for short, because pets are cool and fun to have around. Darbin then decides to take on a side quest because they know that they'd like to try and become a Master Knight. They draw the top 2 side quest cards. Darbin can now choose between the side quests, Pesky Proselytizers, and the Dark Forces of Greed. They decide to take on the Pesky Proselytizers, as it seems like something them and Garbin will be able to complete with relative ease. They return the unchosen side quest to the bottom of the side quest deck. Since Darbin is a knight and the party has just taken on a side quest, they can heal to full health or gain 3 tenacity. Since they're already at full health, they decide to gain 3 tenacity and track it on their character mat. Darbin has now used up both of their town actions. No players have any town actions remaining, so the town encounter ends. The adventurers would now move on to the reward phase, but as they haven't gained any XP today, nothing happens during this phase. Now they move into the end of day phase. But we'll be covering that in our next video in this series, How to Days and Encounters. Thanks so much for watching.